So guys, so our session is really about and by the way, I think the session title is wrong, right? Because the digital future is already the present, right? It's not the future. If you think it's coming, then I think you better sharpen up your resume or better look for a job if you're an entrepreneur, okay? Because it is already loudly and squarely here with us, and I definitely don't have to tell anyone who's actually tuning in and investing their time for this event, right? So what we're going to do is we're talking about how businesses are preparing themselves or have prepared themselves. And it's great because we've got Chan who, with Exabytes, they are pushing and promoting all SMEs. And of course, Eugene, being with his company, Digi, his mandate is to push and drive adoption, with their cohort of SMEs they have. And then, of course, with Vivienne also, she's got the CIMB cluster of SMEs. So what's unique is at least you've got a banking base, you've got a telco base, right? And you've got a mass base also. And my first question to them is actually there was MasterCard did a study, and it was in I think Q4 of last year, and they interviewed about online, right, about 140 Malaysian SMEs, and I didn't get the data about the average size of the SMEs revenue wise, but still it's a fresh survey, and some interesting data points came out from there. And what I wanted to ask, and you can actually, I'll share the link with you later. I actually told the panelists to share links with you all, and I'm not doing it myself, so I'll add the link there shortly. But really, it's about asking them what each of you are seeing in your respective ecosystems in terms of what are the 2 or 3 things your SMEs are already proactively doing, right, to address the existing challenges. And when the word existing challenge is quite broad, but really about the challenge of remaining, in business and thriving, right? So what we'll do is we'll have Vivienne go last, not ladies first on this panel, because we're all equal. And because her name starts with a V, so V alphabetically, she goes last. But we're going to start with Chan first. Chan, your thoughts on this, and what are you seeing with your SMEs, right? And then we'll go to Eugene and then Vivienne.
Right. I think over the past 12 months or so, right, what we can see, what's interesting is a lot of all these more conventional or traditional businesses. In the past, you beg them to go e-commerce, go online, go digital, right? They'll have all kinds of reasons. But what really changed is that all these businesses in the past 12 months, they actually proactively coming on board, ask about what are the solutions available, how can they transform, what else they can do, how can they do more. Specifically zoom in, right? I think there are 2 areas that's very interesting. One is retail, right? These are the more conventional retailers used to operate in the high footprint traffic malls and all that. So now quite a lot of them actually coming on board, looking for what we call the new retail solutions, right? How can they bridge better their traditional footprints traffic versus the convergence of online e-commerce traffic. So that is one big trend that's happening now. The other one is a very, very traditional brick and mortar, like your food sellers, meat sellers, grocers, and all that. Now, I think quite a numbers of them are already embracing digital and e-commerce. Embracing digital as you can buy anything, then you use any wallets to just pay them, right? That's become a new trend. And also some of them, we can see them, they are doing extremely well. If they also even have a platform, allow their customers to actually place orders and even make payments. And what is really good is these groups of traditional brick and mortar sellers, right? In terms of service level, they can still give you the same level of you get or you receive when you walk into a wet market.
Oh, even really? Yeah, interesting.
It's a lot of personalized stuff, right? For example, you need that extra onions or whatsoever, they're happy to accommodate you, even though they're doing digital. So I think those who really embrace the technology and take advantage of current trend, they are doing extremely well.
Okay, so you embrace lah. Okay, so these are the ones who embrace. So later we'll come back to the ones who don't want to embrace. But all right, thanks, Eugene. So from within the Digi ecosystem, what are you seeing as to what those are already being proactive?
Yeah, I think actually, like maybe if I just rewind a bit, right, the last 12 months or so, or 2020 all the way to now, I kind of see the SMEs kind of like going in almost 3 different phases.
Okay.
Right. I think around March, April, May last year, right, a lot of people are a bit in denial. right? You know, like when we do one MCO from the 18th of March for 2 weeks, then MCO number 2, and MCO number 3, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks. Everybody's view is, oh, it will finish, and then after that we'll go back to normal.
Correct.
Right? Everybody is just saying this is a short-term shock.
Yes.
I think so. That to me is a little bit the stage one, right? They didn't realize how big and how impactful this entire COVID situation is to the country and to their businesses, right? And then after that, you know, like you go into kind of like a second stage where, you know, like, okay, you finally accepted that this is going to affect you in a big way, right? But you're also at the same time, you know, like a little bit worried, you know, you get more and more worried, you know, you're conserving cash, you're trying to think about how to make the business survive, etc., etc. So you go into this mode where, you know, you're accepting it now, but at the same time, you know, like you're feeling a lot of stress, a lot of pressure, and maybe even some degree of pessimism. Because it's no longer uninformed optimism, it's pessimism. But I think recently, the last couple of months, right, you know, like even though I think, you know, like recently we started to see cases going up, but I start to see basically, you know, like people are now optimistic that, you know, like, yes, you know, we may see 1 or 2 more waves, right? You know, like, it's not going to be a continuous upward trend. You know, you go up and then come down a little bit, but they generally have an optimism that we will finally come out of it, right? Maybe it's the vaccine, you know, like, despite some of the issues that they have, I think they believe that the vaccine, you know, like, and now that we are all familiar in how to operate in this new environment or this new normal, we'll be able to come out of it. And I think people are expecting that this is the year, right? Whether it's fast or slow, but they're expecting this is the year of recovery, I think. I know, like, especially those who have survived the last 12 months, right? But, you know, like the only difference is, you know, is it a kind of like a faster recovery or slower recovery? But I think generally I see a little bit of this, right? And I also see that, you know, like some of the measures of the things that people have done when they finally accepted this to be the truth from the digital front are starting to add to their business. So just to give you an example, you know, like, for example, you know, just anecdotally, I know kind of like some people who run restaurants in shopping malls, for example, right? During the time when there was lockdown and there was no foot traffic in the mall, they started moving on to the delivery business, right? Leveraging some digital ways to reach the customers for ordering, etc., right? And now, I know, and actually, while the delivery business will never basically, you know, like take over or will never contribute to the same amount as the store because of the foot traffic in the mall, right? But the delivery business has helped to manage the cash flow during the difficult period. And the good thing is now when the physical business starts to recover, the amount that they're also making on the delivery business is an addition on top of that. So I think if they play their game right, you know, like in this year, they will see basically additional business because of the new things that they're doing on the digital side, and the physical side, you know, like they see the businesses recover. So I think there's a little bit of this also, you know, like in the SME space.
Okay, interesting. I think, but maybe not in the micro SME space, because I had to go out and get lunch yesterday for the kids, and you know, I was shocked that the traffic, I couldn't get parking, so I had to, and I was lucky. I don't like to double park or, you know, park illegally. I got no luck. Always sure kena someone run, bloody hell. So I went one night, I got parking lucky. And then I went in and I said, wow, people really much prefer the you know, when you're eating at your, you know, your wanton mee or your nasi lemak, you want it fresh and right there. That is so strong. And there's and people seem very confident. They're wearing masks, right? But when you're eating, you cannot wear a mask, right? So I was struck by how normal it feels already. So, but these micro SMEs there, they were always physical, you know. None of them I saw, you know, go to my website and order no food panda stickers, at least in this kopitiam where there were 7-8 stalls. So just sharing a point, not a question or whatever, and you may want to add or subtract from that later also, but let's get Vivienne on and listen to the CIMB perspective, right? Of what you have seen with the 2 or 3 proactive steps that your SMEs, those who have been proactive, what have they done?
Okay, I think I have to really catch on to what Eugene mentioned. Last year, it was a bad year, right? During the period where people were sort of like in denial, I would call that to the banks, we call it the survival period, right? So when we say survival period, what do we mean? From the bank perspective, I don't just look at SMEs who are keen to digitalize. So obviously Chan has the better luck, everybody is going to Chan. I think his bank account must be booming. Good news to Chan. Similarly to Eugene, everybody who is in the telco world is already quite digital savvy, right? SMEs who have been using his solution would have already been proactively using and continue to utilize his services. For my base, I've got about 500,000 SMEs in CIMB, right? And we are the second largest bank. Every month, I onboard close to 6,000 new business current accounts, of which 75% of them are micro enterprises. Which
75%, wow.
75%, right? So, Karamjit, to your point, the digitalization era is still very slow, very stagnant. In terms of global uptake, we are still very much lagging behind. Let's not look at our far countries. Look at Singapore.
Sure.
Singapore's adoption of digital.
Our favorite red dot. Okay, let me just add blue dot. Sorry, blue dot.
Who steals our water, right? But they are so intellectual. They are already, embracing digitalization to the point that, like the previous speaker Gary was mentioning, they have been adopting live streaming way ahead of Malaysians, right? But the good news is that during the pandemic, SMEs who were scuttling to survive during this survival period readily reached out to CIMB and asked for financial assistance, digitalization assistance. They actually called in. Our call center was so flooded. Bank, can you please help me? We don't have money. How do I sustain this period? And we, from the banking perspective, we can't give them free money. But what we can do is to utilize the government funds to give them a much more affordable rate. Okay. So CIMB has been proactively organizing webinars. I think we organized close to 40 webinars last year on digitalization alone. Wow. Yes. And we ran that together with our numerous partners. Actually, we're going to start one with Exabytes. So thank you, Chan. And basically, we also had partners like Shopmatic, an e-commerce platform. Business HR, very prominent in Malaysia. Actual name, HR Easily, white labeled to CIMB, Business HR, and many other partners. And we've seen almost close to 1,000 SMEs proactively registering for the webinars to inquire about how they can go digital. Wow. And you'd be very surprised. Lazada saw a 300% boom in terms of adoption on their platform. Okay. But then again, when you talk about Lazada or Shopee, they are not digital adopters. They are an e-commerce platform. The SMEs do not own the data.
Yeah, true.
They don't own the data. Customers could come tomorrow and forget you the next day.
Yep.
And that is something that we have to admit that Chan gives a better edge over the likes of Lazada and Shopee. Your platform allows customers to remember that, hey, this customer has been here. How do I get him to come back? So some of the other more proactive SMEs, which I've seen in my base, it's so sad to start off on a sad note, right? We've had about 4 out of every 10 SMEs closed down last year in our base. Attrition.
Wow, 40%, huh? Okay.
Attrition for wild. We've seen account closures about 30,000 last year alone. And it saddens me, right? Because even though we try our best to talk about digitalization, in the next few topics, we're going to talk about why they don't understand digitalization. They think that by baking, selling on Facebook is considered digitalization. I'm so sorry. That's not digitalization. That's the first baby step that you can take to begin your route to digitalization. Yeah. So I think proactively wise, they are sort of trying their best. They just stumble here and there. And I think during today's Exabytes workshop and the next day and the previous days, we can hopefully help to teach SMEs how to proceed even further along their journey. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, that's sobering. I guess because for you it's critical, but Eugene, among your SME base, have you seen any of them, just to pick up on what Vivienne was saying, have you seen any of them drop out? Maybe they were adopting some services, then they drop out because you know that, of course, they won't tell you they're closing business, or maybe they do, but have you seen that kind of business closure among your SMEs? And then there's another question for you too after you answer this.
So actually, I was a bit surprised by the 40% number.
Huge, huh? Yeah.
I definitely do not see such a huge attrition rate. Yes, we have seen, more businesses that are, closing down. in a normal year. We have also seen, like more difficult to collect payments. More companies went into basically, like a kind of like a bad debt type situation, right? But at the same time, we also see that, like as we start to work with them in terms of offering them a way to manage a bit kind of like the payments, I think many of the genuine ones, like are willing to basically, like see how they can do this. We also see, like this point also, like more people, like more occurrence of potential fraud type situations. So all of this, unfortunately, we see a bit more, like during the tough times. Actually, but maybe I would like to correct Vivienne's point a little bit as well. So actually, I kind of agree with her actually. Like, well, I think Chan, like just by selection, right? The people that go to you are people who have already decided to utilize, right? Whereas I think, like for Vivienne and maybe even for Digi, right? The people, our customers, like the SME base, they are either just, like people who are borrowing money from the bank, or they're using, like mobile phones. So they are more representative of the SMEs where, like have not or have decided the universe of the SMEs, like who are going or not going to digital, right? I think the point is, I do see more, like last year SMEs actually, like taking the step to do some of these things, right? I agree with Vivienne that I think, it's not really, they're not really digitalizing their businesses, right? But they are starting to adopt some of the digital windows, right? Whether it be, like Facebook Live, whether it be kind of putting up, like things for sale on Lazada and Shopee, right? And whether it is also, like becoming more innovative in terms of using their social media networks on WhatsApp or KakaoTalk, etc. So I've seen a lot more of those. And I think to me, when they have to do that, then they have to start thinking about different things in their business, right? So for example, I would argue that, like when you start to do this, like for a lot of the micro where they previously didn't really care whether or not they are represented on Google Business or Facebook Business, suddenly it becomes very important. It becomes very important to register your business there, right? To put the opening hours there, to put your address there, to make sure that, like the context is correct. And actually the most important is basically to monitor the ratings of the customers and then to respond to every single one of the questions that is raised there. Because that drives traffic. And I think when people start to do that, they start to understand, this is an important part of the digital business, which is very different from what it is physical. I think, so that's one thing. The other thing I would argue is basically, like then they also start to think about, how do I settle the payment part of the solution, right? Initially they say, Grab does everything for me. Then you have a group of people that says, but Grab takes 30% of my, or whatever the number is. Right? Then they get a bit upset. But so if they want to do it by themselves, they have to come up with creative ways to, kind of like defray some of the cost to basically send the food or deliver the goods to the customer. And they have to find a way to also collect the payment, right? Whether you do it before, after, it's the right way. So I think to me, these are all, like step-by-step things that SME can do to digitalize their business, right?
What Vivienne was saying earlier, the baby steps,
they get a little bit worried, when they talk about, let's digitalize business and then let's put ERP solution, let's set up big web stores. I think they need step-by-step first. So once they start to see real money coming in from these channels, once they start to understand how customer interactions work in these channels, then I think they dare to put more and more, or whether it is resources, like their own, or like people that they're bringing in, or money investments into like the digital part of the business. And I think that I definitely see a lot more last year. So I see a lot of people trying out Facebook Live, right? Trying to go very awkward the first 2 or 3 sessions that they have. But after a while, a few of them find that they like it. They've got this natural flair, like to appear in front of video and read comment. Right? So you see a lot of these things that are very encouraging in terms of people starting to do baby steps and pick up bits and pieces of what it means to digitalize your business.
So it's important. So when you say pick up bits and pieces, before I go on to my official question, so a lot of these questions are spontaneous for those who are listening based on what I'm hearing also, right? And you're hearing this for the first time, just as I'm hearing it also. When you talk about this, I think you have customers even for Chan also, right? You've got customers then who've stopped using your services, and you presume that they're closing down, right? Or for you, of course, Eugene, maybe they've moved to a competitor, right? Maybe cheaper, whatever. Definitely not better, but maybe cheaper. Oh, cannot be cheaper. Okay, cannot be cheaper. Then the bad news is that if you guys are the best out there, if they're not using your service anymore, that means they're closing down. But my point is this: you still got the customer context, right? And we talk about this year being bounce back also, because the entrepreneurs have this incredible spirit where never say die. Last year was an extreme global situation, so maybe they had to close down. But if some of them want to come back this year, I wonder if you all have a plan to be able to help them. Hey, you are my previous customer before, so you're like a VIP. What we will go the extra step to help you bounce back. You all have anything in plan like that? Chan, maybe you take this first.
Yes, we do. So what we observe is, right, in terms of existing customers, the churn rate slightly increased by 20%. But the good news is for new customers, new inquiries, right, last year we saw a 50% growth. So I think overall net is a very positive growth.
Yeah, 20% churn. But that is, so what I'm saying is this 20% churn, let's say the people who stop being your customers because maybe their business closed down or they temporarily closed, when they come back, right, and they because there was already a past relationship and you all capture all the data, right? Yeah. I'm asking, do you then have a special, are you giving them any special incentives to help them? Hey, we know you have to shut down or whatever, you're trying to bounce back. We are doing our part to help you. Is there a special, support for them, right? May not be related to a government program, but are you also trying to go the extra step for those who are trying to bounce back?
Yes, I think there are at least 3-4 things that we are doing. Number one is we put together all the essential solutions needed into a bundle, so that make their life easier. They don't have to deal with too many providers.
Okay. Yep. Okay.
Yeah. Then we also actually assign a dedicated account manager out so that they can directly reach out to the right person, because they need a bit of consultation, not like just click and order from the website. Yeah.
Okay. That's good. So that's with you all. Vivienne, I'll ask you this first, then I'll go back to Eugene. Is there for your customers who had stopped their banking relationship with you, and presumably because they had to shut down, if they are coming back, are you giving them any special incentive? Because hey, we know you had a hard time, you're trying to come back, and your sales leads, are they proactively reaching out to these people also? Hey, how are things with you? Are you okay? We know you shut down last year. Can we do anything? Being proactive is one, and one more, when they actually try to reach out with you again, hey, we want to reopen, I'm starting a new business, or relaunching the business I shut last year. Can you help me?
Yeah, the bank is very receptive to customers who have been through a difficult time. During the pandemic itself, we've been proactively calling all the customers, especially our loan customers, who will be facing difficulties in making the repayments. So we have actually asked them, do you guys need any restructuring and rescheduling of your loans, right? Because we know you can't pay it. Moratorium ended after 6 months, and we continued to extend that through our payment assistance programs.
Wow,
and
fantastic.
And that's 100% of SMEs in CIMB took it, right? So we actually called all 10,000 SMEs from the SME segment, and another 5,000 SMEs from the slightly bigger SME segments. But net overall, we have contacted all the SMEs, reached out to them, spoke to them in terms of how can we help you guys to go through this pandemic. And if they have any problems, they close their business down, we won't shut the relationship, right? Because at any point of time that they reach out to us, we offer digital upscaling programs. CIMB has actually just worked with Cyber Dynamic to launch our digital upscaling program. And Cyber Dynamic is a huge public listed company. They offer digitalization courses for over 8 different industries.
Wow.
From manufacturing to HR to IoT, very cool stuff. And although that's primarily targeted to the slightly larger SMEs, we have the smaller ones, which I mentioned, the webinars that we run. So at any point of time that they are interested, they can always register for our webinars free of charge. And we don't only limit it to CIMB customers, it's also free for any SME who's keen to learn how to digitalize. And I think that's what's giving us a special edge over our competitors. We actually try to reach out to any SMEs.
Yeah. Very good. Okay, cool. Eugene, if you can take this also then.
Yeah, I think this is one thing that, I would say we can copy with pride, right? I think today, the way our business work, at least on the B2B side with SMEs, is that, the single the point of identification of the customer is a lot more around the company BRN, the company, the name of the company. So what you're saying is correct. So if the company has closed down during the pandemic, right, and now the founder restarts a new company, right, the normal process would not have been able to link this new guy or this new company to be kind of like a previous customer of us, right? So I think that's something that we are trying to do as well, where we move a little bit the point of the relationship from kind of like a company, right, to also, like at least for SMEs, right, to
Yes,
the
SMEs.
owners, like, and the founders behind the organization. I think one thing that we also learned from, I had a couple of these webinars also, like with Singh. I'm quite interested in what, they did actually, right? Where I think, like during the pandemic, what they do was actually, like they look at all the customers who have come to their shop and bought something from them, right? Like
Okay.
2 years ago. So let's say
Wow.
you came 2 years ago and you bought a TV, or 3 years ago and bought a TV. Maybe you've not come back for a long time. So when they had to close their shop during the lockdown, they basically, like passed this list of customers to the basically, like the shop salesperson and made them telesales, converted basically this shop retail sales to telesales guys, like we basically, and this is what you bought from us 3 years ago, we have not seen you since, but let me tell you what, I have an offer for you.
Cool.
And I think we are thinking along some of these lines as well. Like in fact, I think, we're also taking a book out of the taking lessons out of the Chance book, where we put together some of these things that we believe will help SMEs actually go online in kind of like a simpler way. Right? For example, we are partnering with Facebook Avana. We also, so this is more for, like that. And Facebook Avana, basically, they have got two main things, I would argue. One is basically, they teach and they make it easier for SMEs to do digital marketing, right? To reach out to their customers on some of this, social media platforms, especially on Facebook, right? And then they also allow you to basically, there's a way that they help you set up a storefront and manage, like in a basic way, the inventory and the SKUs that you put up on the store.
Okay.
So, it simplifies a bit your life also on the basically like the fulfillment, and then after the post-sales customer service part. So, like some of this, it's not the best, but I think, allows you to do a lot of this, like when you want to start off. So I think, we partner with organizations so that we can do kind of like an end-to-end suite of solutions to help companies like that, right? And I think what we will also do is basically, of course, like any other business, a customer who has been with us, like over years, will enjoy basically, like better offers from us. Because we know this customer to have been paying customers for 2 years, like maybe they had some issues, in the last pandemic. We know these customers to have been, like genuine, and has the potential for growth, etc. So whether it is on the point of basically, like us, giving you a kind of a better offer, like better support in terms of, like as you go into some and pick up some of this digitalization style, or like working with you so that like we can target some of the government programs. And I think I believe you go into that as well. These are the things that we will do. We know like the customers of ours who have been loyal for a while and who may have dropped off the radar during the
nice. Okay, good. I think all of us, especially big companies, have to go the extra step to help their customers or former customers, right? Because you have that relationship, and you have the track record of their relationship with you. So these guys have been very good, paymasters or very good customers. But of course, last year was an anomaly. Hey, I want to go out and reach out to them and say, can we help you or not? So fantastic. Good to hear that. Let's move on to a formal question which I have also. And by the way, there's an interesting question about Microsoft setting up data center and what impact. I think I'll only, if Chan wants to answer that, Chan can take that after this round, which is, I guess, what do you see is the key hurdle that is preventing your base of customers from getting ready, right, for this digital present, not future, for the digital present. And I guess, Eugene, you make a good point. Probably your answer and Vivienne's answer response is more valuable, because for Chan, they come to him, they already converted, they already made the mental journey that, hey, I need to get online, and they're reaching Chan then. So Chan, you can answer this last, because then you also can take the Microsoft question if you want to. I'll go to Vivienne first, and then Eugene, you take this.
Okay. So your question is
about what do you see as the key hurdle preventing your SMEs from getting ready for the present?
Right. Unfortunately, although I'm a bank, the top reason is that SMEs are always saying that they don't have enough access to funding.
Still, Oh, okay.
Still. Even though last year the government has introduced close to 28 initiatives,
Wow.
Ghana being one of them. CIMB, obviously, as the second largest local bank, has to conform with BNM's requirements, right? So we have launched multiple funds and multiple financing programs, which we have offered to all SMEs, ready available on our website for SMEs to come and inquire about.
Okay.
Basically, you can get working capital up to 500,000 for as low as 3.5%, which is about 70 to 80% SJPP or CGC guaranteed, right? So these are extremely exciting offers. You know, a normal loan rate, I don't think I'm supposed to share, so keep this to you.
Yeah.
It's about maybe 8 to 9%, right? And if you divide that over 12 months, maybe you're paying 0.75 to 1%. Now at 3.5%, if your monthly income or ROI is 10%, you minus 3.5 divided by 12, barely negligible. It's basically taking money from the bank and from CGC and from our Bank Negara and going, hey guys, let me work on sustaining my business. I've got people to feed. I'm not using it. Why?
True.
So that leads to the second point of why SMEs still find digitalization so difficult as a hurdle is due to denial. They are not out there actively seeking information. Now, I'm sure all of us knows some SME out there who, a very good example, Kayu. Everybody here has been to original Kayu, correct? Who has not been? Because there is literally a robot that has trays and is just delivering drinks to the customers. And they're a mama.
Yeah.
So you can't be telling me that a conglomerate or a big SME out there doesn't go and go, wow, that's a cute looking robot. How can I adopt that for my business? And that itself is the biggest hurdle. Denial. They don't want to go out and actively seek for knowledge.
Wow.
So when you have a lack of knowledge, lack of financing, it's virtually impossible for you to take your next steps. And interestingly enough, there was a survey by Consortium Business Malaysia. I think it was just last year where they said that SMEs merely need to embrace 5 tech in order to be so-called digitalized. Point of sales, inventory, invoice financing, HR solution, and an accounting solution. Just 5 simple things. And even a website. Obviously, you need a web store, right?
Yeah.
Charlie's like, yeah, you need one. Yes, and you need a decent web store. That's it. 5 things, right? So invoice and inventory is close together. Everything else is there to, most importantly, reduce your task time, reduce operational waste. Every second you have one sales guy running to you, passing your accountant a ticket and a receipt, and you manually killing it into Excel will spend 10,000 ringgit on their poor accountant doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
Whereas had they just signed up for, here's free publicity for my partner, business HR, they would have just had to pay 4 ringgit per employee, and that employee could just literally key it into their system on the go, take a receipt, submit, go straight to finance, and they can then upload that into our Biz Channel platform, and automatically every month the payments will be paid together with your salary. So those are some of the simple steps that SMEs are still reluctant to take. And today should be your first step. Correct.
Wow. So you imagine with the incredible accelerator that COVID has been, and there is still this reluctance, it'll be great if you all actually got a few of them together into a room, right? And did a intimate, breakdown, right? Of what's really holding them back. Amazing, lah. It's kind of scary. I mean, if COVID doesn't trigger you to action, nothing will. So, Eugene, what about for you then? To take this same question about what do you feel is the biggest issue that is the hurdle, right, for your companies, the people in your base, SMEs, to just be ready for the present.
So, Karamjit, thanks for the question. Right, I think I don't disagree with Vivienne, but like maybe I take a slightly different perspective on this.
Excellent. You take a totally opposite perspective, even better. Let's hear different viewpoints.
Yeah. I'll give you kind of like and I just use a simple example to illustrate this. Right? I think a couple of days ago, I probably should have adopted it a long time ago. I decided that I've got too many name cards.
Okay.
So I wanted to just find a name card scanner, right? So it gets all the information into my address book easily.
Yep.
Right? So when I went to Google and I type in, like name card scanner or whatever, I see 500 different things, and I see a lot of ratings and recommendations. Honestly, I ended up not doing anything.
Oh, okay.
Too many options. I don't know which to choose. And sometimes when you're bombarded with too many options to do something, even though you are already ready to do it, sometimes you end up not doing it.
Just stay with the status quo. Yeah, correct.
Yeah. And my argument here is, I think, so I would argue that there is a responsibility and also, like opportunity for some of the bigger organizations in Malaysia, right? And I would argue, I would say that these organizations are like basically, like CIMB, like Digi, like Exabytes even, right? To take the position, like a trusted position. Why? Because basically, the same story, like a couple of days later, I asked a friend that I trust, hey, which name card scanner do you use? He just gave me the thing, I type it in, and I don't even want to look at all the other options. I just download it and use it, right? Because I trusted that person.
Yeah.
Right. And I argue that, like some of us, like in Malaysia, like we have this potential to take a trusted position.
Yes.
In the SMEs, so much so that like don't worry about like going in and seeing 500 HR solutions.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Trust CIMB and do the business HR. Well, I'll say maybe trust Digi and then we have HR.
Yeah.
Do everything with your mobile, right? And at some point, like look, or you may have 500 out there, but then now you look, okay, Digi says like Digi is partnering with Alt HR, or Digi has pushed out Alt HR, CIMB has does business HR, etc. Then you immediately narrow the scope of some of those solutions that you want to use, right? And I would argue that like if there's somebody who basically that you trust are basically telling you, look, like don't worry, I'm sure this is not the best for all situations.
Yeah.
Go very wrong. Just use this HR solution. Use this e-commerce solution. Do it like that first. Like when you want to basically like do a little bit of inventory and SKU management, etc. And do this and do that, right? Then when they start, my argument is always like when you start to see that hey, actually I'm not spending money. I'm actually like helping me grow my business. So whatever. A ringgit that I throw at it, makes me grow at 2 ringgit. So now I'm suddenly more willing to throw ringgit at it. Previously, I asked me to throw 5,000 ringgit, I'm very hesitant.
Yeah.
After this experiment, I know every ringgit I throw at it, I get 2 ringgit back in revenue. 5,000 ringgit, yeah, let's do it. Because I'm expecting 10,000 ringgit back from revenue at some point.
Yeah.
Right? And then when you are into it, then you can go and do your own homework and find what is potentially the best. Then at that time, you may argue that, like business HR may no longer be able to support my business because it's a lot more complex now. I may need to go into a NetSuite solution, like a bigger ERP solution.
Yeah.
The starting point is always the hardest, especially in the digital world. I think, like the options, like abound. There's so many of them.
Yeah.
That's a little bit kind of like my argument.
Sure.
It's also one of the reasons why I think Digi believes that it's very important that we take kind of like a position of trust. So everything that we do, whether it's our privacy, cybersecurity, etc., we want to take a strong, trusted position with our partners and with our customers.
Yeah, that's a huge thing to be trust. I know early on when I was writing about e-commerce, and some of the people said e-commerce will start flying when people trust and feel trust, meaning then you feel safe, to transact online. And we've already long overcome that hurdle. You're right. Even for among the SMEs, you need to do that. But so I'm curious because let me go to Chan first now. Chan has unmuted his mic. He's willing to ready to jump in and address this also as to what he thinks is the biggest hurdle, right? Preventing people from being ready for the current economy, not future economy.
Right. So I believe nowadays the SME, they already know the what, right? What they need to do, and they're obviously learning the why. But what they are really struggling with is how, right? So this relates to a lot of knowledge issue, talents issue, and also largely perception issue. I give one example. even SMEs, right? You have the S, the small one, and the M, the medium one, right? So let's say we take the HR solution, for example, 4 ringgit per employee per month, right? From a service provider perspective, right, 4 ringgit per month actually is not a lot. But for the small businesses, let's say they have 10 employees or lesser, they don't see the needs that, hey, I need to use the HR solutions, right? Because I only have 10 employees and I can settle within a WhatsApp group, right? But when it comes to a mid-sized company, let's say they have 100 employees, then they start to count, hey, 100 employees times 4 ringgit times a year, that's 5,000 a year. And I need these 5 or 10 different solutions. That added up is like 50, 60,000 or 100,000 additional. And this is something that they never spent in the past. They still have to figure out, right, how can they that 50,000 or 100,000 extra that they are going to spend, even as much as they are willing to invest, how are that going to convert or translate into results? Same things what happens when they embrace e-commerce, right? They always calculate that, hey, that one additional 1% transaction fees or 2% transaction fees, in the past when they collect from their stores, collect from the market, they don't have to incur all these additional 1 or 2%.
Yep.
And as much as they wanted to try, but okay, where to get the people or the right talents to help them, right? We can't produce enough talents within the past 12 months to support all the digitalization.
True.
So I think that's a gap that we are facing right now.
Okay. Interesting. So Chan, you want to just take the Microsoft question before I go on to my third question then?
Regards that, right, I believe if we do it, if we execute it right, I believe it will move the entire industry ecosystem or even as a nation towards our next phase of digitalization. But there are also a couple of things we need to take note, right? Data center is just a data centers, right? As we know, data center inside, there are not many people. So it's important on how the data centers can level up our overall infrastructure, and hence it offer a faster, reliable, and even more affordable services to help all the businesses to go digital. That's number one. Number two is a lot of time you can't really track and trace, all these digital economy they landed at which country.
Yeah.
So I do really hope, right, all this economy, they are the right portions that will come back to our nations, right? Then I think these are all the hardware. We need to make sure we have the right software, to balance the ecosystem to support, right? Else you have all the nice hardware, but you don't have enough people to implement it, to embrace it. We're back to square.
Talent. Okay, fine. Let's which is on the fact that and I think you already knew is coming also, right? Which is, look, there's so many programs up there. Are your SMEs seizing these various programs available? Because it was quite stunning for I think Mustafa Muhammad, right, the EPU minister, to say that only 10% or less, right, of the billions available, and maybe it's only talking about one program, has still not been utilized, and that just it blows your mind. So share your perspective, and then Vivienne, you can take this.
Okay. Actually, so I use one example maybe, right? Like the Penjana SME Digitalization Fund.
Okay.
Right. I think when the government was first trying to basically, promote this and to roll it out, I think my understanding was the first 3 to 6 months, they had, it's just 5,000 ringgit, by the way, right?
Yeah.
Ringgit for you to adopt some of these solutions. And they expected, 100,000 out of the 900,000 SMEs to pick it up, right? And I think after doing it for half a year or so, they have less than 100, if I'm not wrong, who have kind of signed up, right? And I think there are two potential issues there, right? One is a little bit what, like sometimes what my Indian friends will tell me. Indian as in, friends from India.
Oh, okay.
Like the best support that the government can give us is to get out of our way, right? Don't come and kacau me in my business. Then, and I think, unfortunately, for a while, I think a lot of some of the SMEs, especially, they think a little bit like that. Like the best thing that I want from the government is that they don't put a lot of limitations on me. And I think only recently they're starting to see also, like some of these government programs actually can help them or reduce the barrier of entry to take some of this, like steps, especially into digitalization. So I think that's a little bit on the mindset of the SME side, right? Where they may not watch so closely the government programs that are grants that are available for them, or they may argue that this is probably not for me, right? So there's a little bit of that. And then on the government side, I will argue also, like the government probably have not thought initially, at least, fast enough around how many touch points am I putting it out there so that I can get the businesses to basically register and sign up for the fund faster. I think initially I think when they were doing that specific one program, I think they basically appointed one bank to do it. And unfortunately, the bank does not have that many touch points to reach.
Of course,
right? So if you ask the SME that, like, let's say in Termelo, who may not have the, like the bank branch in that town, to drive to Kuantan in order to register for this. And when he goes there, like then he actually has to find out that, he has to write a proposal. So he has to go back, like type up a one-page proposal, submit it, like etc. And like, so the process that is in place in order to qualify for this thing, I think, initially was a little bit too onerous as well. So that after a while, they said, like, look, this is just too much trouble. I think there is that part, like, and then there's that part about, even after I qualify, how fast will the fund be disbursed?
Yeah, true. That's key.
So all of these are the things that I think, like, has stifled a little bit, like the take up of this, like the grants initially, right? But at least, I think, like for the SME digitalization fund, what I thought was interesting was that I think the government, MDEC, MOF, like the team, right, together with MDEC has finally also decided that they will work with the bank, yes, right, but at the same time, they will also partner with other people. In this case, I think they chose to partner with the telco. Use our touch points in order to reach out to the SMEs, like to get them to basically apply and to hopefully to qualify them for some of these grants. So I think that helped significantly drive the take up of that. Right? But to be honest, I think this one is a slightly easier qualification one. I think the other one that I'm aware of is called the SME Automation Grant. Right? My understanding is a bigger grant. I think it's up to 100,000 if I'm not wrong. More than that, right? But again, that is a bit, but the burden to basically qualify for the grant is a little bit more difficult. And I think, like, I would argue that, like, then the government has to think a little bit like how they were doing the past way. Who can they partner in order to reach people who need the grants the fastest, and to understand what is and what are the tweaks that you make on the process, right? So that you find the right balance between control and, like, not adding too much burden of proof.
Too much burden lah. Okay.
Process. Yeah.
All right. Let's just go to Vivienne now. I didn't realize we are almost running out of time. It doesn't feel like an hour. So it's been, for me, who's so used to this topic, actually what you all have been sharing has been really genuinely interesting. Okay, Vivienne, what is with all these grants available, what has been the adoption among your SME base? Because surely you want to help them to get this free money or this subsidies available, right? Grants.
Right. So let me start with the boring part. So CIMB has actually helped about 2,000 SMEs.
2,000, okay.
Yeah, we have approved close to 2 billion worth of funds to help these 2,000 SMEs, right? On top of that, maybe I just need to help to touch up a little bit on what Eugene mentioned. Actually, there are two separate financing options available. One is financing, and one more is grants, right? The grants that Eugene spoke of, there are actually two different grants. One is the MDEC grant, which is up to 5,000, and that requires you to partner and apply for certain qualified digital partners, about 138 if I'm not mistaken, as of today. And the other grant is, to Eugene's point, the digitalization grant. That's actually offered by SME Corp. So SME Corp is for the much larger enterprises. Very much, right? There is an annual turnover of I think 5 million above. So very different sphere from the micro SMEs, which we are trying to I think deliberate a bit more about, right? For the MDEC grant, what I can really agree to what Eugene is mentioning is that the government has not put much thought into the application process and the What I mean by that is, if you were to compare with just our friendly neighbor right beside us, right there, right?
Annoying neighbor.
The very smart one there, right? They offer their grants with zero qualifying criteria.
Wow.
What that means is essentially you apply for the grant, you get the money. Period. That's literally called a grant. Wow. In Malaysia, to get that 5,000 ringgit, you still need to meet the milestones. If you don't achieve the milestones, report back to MDEC, you're not going to get the 5,000. And I think Chan knows this very well. So to talk about the digitalization grant, that's even harder to achieve. You need to meet revenue milestones, you need to achieve annual turnover milestones, so on and so forth. So that's from a grant perspective.
Yes.
Now, from the financing perspective, to your point, Karamjit, I really like the fact that you pointed out, well pointed out, what's the adoption rate of all the billions of money that BNM and MOF has put in? Pathetic, right? Barely negligible. And I have to really agree with Eugene. There are just too many packages.
Oh.
And I can't blame the government nor the SMEs, right? From the government perspective, they need to actively come up with relevant financing for relevant industries. I give you guys a simple example. Flood relief, right? They're supposed to give flood relief to people who were affected by the floods.
Yeah.
They can't just open that up for everybody.
True.
So then you have one initiative, right? Now, moving on, you have customers who are impacted by loss of, as example, job, right? So that's one initiative or one financing package. And then you have automation and digitalization initiative or financing. Suddenly you have three. So you total for different industries, and you can't treat manufacturing and services as the same entity. They're very different.
True. Okay.
They're very different. So then again, another financing comes out for two different industries. So maybe the government needs to look at, to what Eugene has mentioned, more touch points.
Vivienne, it is not maybe. The total now disbursement is a failure. Let's not beat around the bush, right? They need to do their homework properly, right? And get it targeted so it's a lot easier, right? By the vertical. And of course, engage with the maybe industry association if there's, one particular, and say, we're going to do this, give your feedback, and then quickly get it out. Because this is frankly a disaster, man.
Right. And another point is because I work with multiple associations, right? Even from the banking perspective, I'm confused.
Oh, yo.
I don't blame the SMEs. I'm confused. You have the likes of MDEC, you have SME Corp, you have Matrade. There's so many associations.
Bank industry or Bank Rakyat or whatever, right? The development banks.
Everybody is doing something for the SMEs. So I'm confused. So sometimes even when I want to work with them on giving out accessible financing, accessible digital webinars, I just don't know who to work with.
Understood. Wow. Yeah. Okay, we are almost out of time. Let Chan just have the last say here, Chan.
Let's talk about the 5,000 SME digitalization.
Okay, what you are familiar with.
Okay. So my perspective, right, is something to encourage digitalizations. So that journey and that process has to be fully digitalized. But unfortunately, the way how it reverse the 5,000 is too manual. You need a lot of touch points, you need a lot of papers, and that entirely defeated the purposes. I saw our favorite neighbors country they did in the past is instead of you go and apply, they reimburse you. What they do is you just declare that in your annual company tax filing. Auditor will do the auditing anyway, right? If you fulfill, straight away deduct 5,000 as your payable tax. That's very straightforward. There's no abuse. There's no complicated process in the middle. Yeah.
Okay, so it looks like we have on the government side, they have clearly failed to really create programs with not just saying there's money announced, right? But there's always strings attached. They have clearly failed with that. So I will bring this up when I meet one of the ministers next and tell him he has failed. With election coming, they'll be very scared. No, we never fail. We'll do something. Okay, never mind. With that, we're just on the dot, 12:25. I know, Vivienne, I think you're typing an answer to Brendan. So that's good. I think this has been, this has been interesting and eye-opening also. And I'm glad at least with Eugene and Vivienne, that your organizations seems like you're going the extra step to help those who've been down, right? Who've been down and are trying to get back up again. That's super important. And I know this is de facto in Chan Exabytes DNA to always help the ecosystem also. With that, then we will pass this session back to our overall moderator supremo.
I like that. For moderating the discussion.
Yes.
Thank you.
And
No problem, Eugene.
a big virtual round of applause to all of you. Karamjit, fantastic job as usual. And to the rest of you, Eugene, Vivienne, Chan, thank you so much for joining us here. This session was actually really insightful for everyone who's listening here. I'm sure you can see from the chat, we were just going off and having our own conversations about it as well. So thank you so much for that and for being a part of the SME Digital Fest 2021. It's always a pleasure to have you here. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
I'll see
Take
you all
care.
soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Enjoy.
Exabytes. Grow your business online.